Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. Happy Tuesday, March 17th. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back with a new and incredible episode. Got a really great guest waiting in the wings. It is still Women's History Month series. So, like I said, got a great guest to feature on this part of the series. But before I bring her on, hit my music. Let's get it. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Hardin. Glad to be back with another incredible episode for my Women's History Month series of this month. You can check out all the shows or previous episodes on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. We're also on YouTube, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network Roku channel, iHeartRadio, wherever you consume podcasts. And you can follow me on all the social media platforms. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky. I Get the Real Deal, Courtney Harden, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. All right, let me bring in my guest here. We was just talking before we started recording, and I've been wanting to get her on for a while, and we finally got it done and everything too, and connected, and I'm like very excited to talk some WNBA, what's going on with that, and with the CBA negotiations, and this incredible talented woman has been plugged in for a long time with that. So she's the host of the Ringer WNBA show. She does college basketball, women's college basketball, NBA, and everything too. So welcome to the show for the very first time, Seerat Sohi. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. That was such a kind introduction, and I also really liked your introduction music. I had the bass was blaring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yes.
yeah.
That was a beat from one of my who's the head of the network. He has has a producer, and he produced a lot of
Mm.
tracks for the network. So I've had this beat for a while, so I like it. I really do. So, but no, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I've been following you for a little bit, for a while, I should say, and love what you're doing with WNBA, NBA, and everything too. Your writing is on point always. So yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
It's
So
very kind. It's very
all
kind. I'm
right.
excited to be here.
Yeah. So all right, let's get started. I always ask my first time guests on the show, who is Seerat Sohi, and how did you get into just writing, podcasting? A quick introduction of yourself.
Wow. Who is Seerat Sohi? So yeah, it's actually it's
Seared.
pronounced
Seared.
Seerat.
Yes, I do
I
that.
always
I've been practicing that. I'm sorry. So yes,
It's
Seared Sohi.
okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
I
I
got it.
always tell people sear it like a steak.
Hmm. Okay.
Like, if you were to sear a steak and then just
Seared
it
steak.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
like that always that one for some reason always sticks with people. Um and I wish I had that in my bag my entire life. I actually only came up with somebody else came up with it. I can't remember who, like 3-4 years ago, and it's been a cheat code for
That's
sure.
that's a good cheat
Um
code. Yep.
but
So
yeah,
see.
don't sweat it. It happens all the time. And like,
Yeah.
for my own podcast, I know how it can be. Like you're trying to remember how to pronounce people's names, and then the second that the lights are actually on and the
Yeah.
mic is
And then
when the
I
mic is
had it.
red, that's when it's like, yeah,
And I
no,
knew
for
it. I
sure.
actually
For
knew it, and
sure.
then I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I knew it." So, but yeah, but thanks. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So to your question though, I started writing about basketball, about the NBA when I was in college.
Mm,
I was a freshman and I was just kind of looking for some level of creative outlet. I played basketball in high school and I didn't like, I was okay, so I didn't play in college or anything like that, but I missed it a lot. And I found myself, that was when I really started watching basketball. I never really watched basketball a lot until I stopped playing it. But sort of like my senior year of high school, I really got into it. I was obsessed. I was posting on forums all the time, and I was posting these long essays about different things. And I think somebody was like, if you're gonna, like, why don't you just start a blog? And that stuck in my mind for a little. I was like, I don't know, why would I start a blog? Like, it's just like, this is just something I do for fun. But then, yeah, in college, I ended up just like starting it on a whim. And I was on Twitter when Twitter was like a cool
Yes.
friendly place to meet
Yep.
like-minded people and community who likes basketball. And I got really lucky. I met a lot of people who are in the same position as myself who just really love the game, wanted to talk the game, and wanted to find some way to sneak in,
Yeah.
like sneak into this to the basketball universe. And yeah, I did that for all of college, and I found a love for writing. I guess I rediscovered a love for writing that had been pretty untapped for a lot of my youth. And that's what I really started to fall in love with. I started to fall in love with writing, and I started doing features, and I did that for a number of years at SB Nation, at Yahoo, and then at The Ringer, and I freelanced for a while as well, which taught me a lot about how to shape stories and how to pitch things as well, which was really valuable. And then I started doing more podcasting when I got to The Ringer. We are definitely more of a podcast forward company.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I started doing some NCAA coverage around the time that Caitlin Clark. Well, I got really into it. Like I definitely came in with Caitlin. I think there was a day where I was just, I don't know, I had the TV on, the Big Ten Network was on. I think it was like when she lost to Michigan. And I was just like, who is this player who's like hitting all these threes and leading this comeback? And it's just like, I've never seen a basketball player do things that she has. And she's like throwing all these passes and things like that. I was like, I think I was just immediately so taken. And so I started following the game from there. And, then yeah, it just really blew up. So I started doing some coverage for The Ringer, which then evolved into doing the Ringer WNBA show.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's like I've really fallen in love with the WNBA and women's college basketball, and I have so many other favorite players now.
Yeah, and it seemed like I said you've been locked in with that for a while. Like you said, with the NBA, but also with you said the WNBA and women's college basketball, and college basketball in general. I remember I remember reading some of your stuff on SB Nation and Yahoo, and just just being able to do that. And I like it because you broke. Like I said, you did a lot of profiles. You broke down, and that's what I love. I
Hmm.
love those breakdowns of players and plays and things like that. And you go back and talk about what you said, blog posts. That goes back to when it
Hmm.
used to be. That was like in message boards and getting into that. And how do you
Yeah,
say journalism and just in general writing has evolved from blog posts and then everything
yeah.
to now what social media is today?
Well, I don't think evolution is necessarily the pertinent phrase there, unfortunately. Right?
That's
I
true.
yeah, I think that the appetite for what I used to do a lot of, which was feature writing, I don't want to say there's not a world for it. I think there are so many fantastic feature writers, and I think that
Yeah.
reporting, especially beat writing, is so important. I think I have a friend who just wrote a huge Darren Peterson story, and I think that's a huge college basketball story that you want people on the ground that can clear the air for, so that a young man is not being tarnished by
Yes.
uh talking heads, right? And that's that has its place for sure. I think like there's nothing wrong with having an opinion, but I think that we have over indexed on opinions and gotten kind of away from the facts. I think there's all those things like have a place in the game, but we've kind of skewed a little too far onto one end of it. And I think that it's something that I've been guilty of myself. I think one thing I've noticed from like the shift that I've made from NBA to WNBA is I did a lot more human interest stuff. I did a lot more features that delved into players' personalities and like the emotional architecture of a team and all the things that go beyond winning. And I think that when we started this WNBA podcast, I think that on some level the space demanded and kind of needed a little bit more
Yeah.
just straight up analysis of the game. And I love that part of it too. I love the X's and O's, and I felt like that was an aspect of the game that felt a little bit undercovered. So I think my WNBA podcast has been way more who's playing well, who's winning and losing, who's moving up and down the draft. And I do like as like the coverage of women's basketball evolves, I do really want to like incorporate the human side of it more.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my goal through like March Madness and definitely this WNBA season is kind of like finding a way to, because I think you look at like somebody like Pablo Torre, right? Like he's
Mhm.
essentially doing investigative journalism in podcast format. So I think we're in a weird place in this industry where I think we have to find ways to be creative if we really care about those things. Because yeah, increasingly the space for the written word combined with reporting is just being frozen out, and that's not in sports. That's in our world at large, right? So I think we're in the midst of like some level of like upheaval right now.
Yeah, that's a great point because I think the shift, as you said, with reporting, the humanization
Mm-hmm.
of it has, and it's still it's so untapped, and you said especially in the women's game as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like there's so many different storylines, and you said yes, we can look at a game and people will have their hot takes and their click
Mm-hmm.
bait and all that, but which I think what you're doing and others are doing, which I love to see, is that getting deeper into the X's and O's, the scouting reports. I miss all
Mm-hmm.
of that. I do. I really do. I remember when we used to buy a magazine back in the day, and it would break down the players and their strengths, their weaknesses, what they worked on heading into the next season, and everything too. Those are the things I think is missing. But everything else is you said, is opinion based. What you said is it's good to have that, but it's being oversaturated with that into journalism, into storytelling, all that. So it's good to see what you're doing
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
Ringer and
it's
podcasts and things like that too.
yeah, it's unfortunate. I know you
Yeah,
probably are pretty familiar with like the YouTube landscape and stuff. I think
yes,
anybody who's in this space is, and I think that it incentivizes a lot of rage bait and
yeah,
clickbait, and it's just it's a direction that like just content in general. The fact that we call it content now is
yeah,
kind of a newer thing in the last 5 years. Like everything has been flattened out into content, regardless
yes,
of what it is, right? And I think that there's a lot of like the WNBA, women's sports in particular, has become a sort of hotbed for misrepresentation because it dovetails with a lot of things that people are uncomfortable with in society. And I think that when you look at it from like the top level and you don't necessarily pay attention to what's really going on, this like this goes with like CBA negotiations
mm,
too as well.
yeah,
I think it's so easy for people to look at it from the top and be like, these WNBA players are being greedy. They don't understand business. They This league is a charity. It's DEI. Like it fits in with so many things that are going on in the world, and like sort of like the dehumanization of women, of black women, of people of color, and like kind of the suppression of their value right now. And I think that what I've tried to do is just sort of like provide an alternate sort of
yeah, yeah,
understanding of those things without necessarily tackling it from the top, because then I think it's really hard to change people's minds when you're making it
mhm,
obvious that you're trying to change their minds.
yeah,
So I've just tried to dig into like, wait, what actually are the numbers here?
right,
Like what's
yeah,
really going on?
hmm,
Because this negotiation is about billionaires and millionaires
mm,
who want to continue to control the means of production, really,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
that's ultimately what this is all about. And when you dig into it, you realize that not only is women's sports incredibly valuable on a financial level, the value of it has been suppressed by mishandling
mm,
for a very long time. I think Ryan Ruocco has talked about Caitlin Clark being a magnifying glass for a lot of issues, and now you see it with quality of refereeing, quality of marketing,
yeah,
um, quality of, and this is something that's definitely improved, but quality of practice facilities, of training, of having downtime, having rest, all of these things that if you are already kind of unable to, like, those are things that are going to impede the product from being at its best
yeah,
and make it look amateur, right? So when people tune in, they're like, oh, like these refs suck, like this is this isn't worth my time, right? And
Right.
as somebody who has sorry, I'm just monologuing at this point, but as somebody who you have your podcast, you have a really great I like your art for your
Thank you.
for like the title. I like your music, like you're trying to make it like when you're trying to make it look like not that like you are doing the work, but you're trying to make it look like you did the work so that people actually want to spend their time with you for
Yeah, yeah,
whatever precious moments of their day that they have. People don't have that much time, and I think that when you tune into a WNBA game for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with the players, I think you can get the sense of like, oh, like if they don't have these things figured out, then why should I spend my time? Why should I invest my time doing
right.
this? And even just, and I will say, I think the WNBA has done a much better job at a lot of these things, and I think they still have a lot to figure out. But I think that there are people in the WNBA who really care about, get just leveling up the product, and I think the product has leveled up in a lot of ways. I also think that there's a
Yeah.
lot of work to do. So yeah, I don't know. Like that's kind of where I stand with it.
No, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a good transition into the negotiations because I know when I was having
Mm-hmm.
you on, with everything's going on, it's
Yeah.
interesting because Andy Costable from Front Office Sports, boots on the ground, there at the negotiations said that this is the eighth consecutive day and over 90 hours have been logged in since Tuesday when the marathon sessions begin. And I know you had did a lot with this, like I said, getting the inside of what's really going on that's not being reported. But the league in itself, like you said, I think they weren't prepared. They should have been. They weren't prepared for what the Caitlin Clark boom and that draft class in its general was going
Mm-hmm.
to do. And now we're seeing the effects. It's like, hey, you said these players they want to be paid because they're saying, hey, we've built this up and now here we are. Now the investments is there. Everything is there. Networking,
Mm-hmm.
everything is there now. So we want to get get paid for the most part, get paid to for this product, and we want to continue to WNBA to keep rising. And you said there's still a lot of work to be done on all sides,
Mm-hmm.
but what's your overall take on how things have been handled from the league side and the player side too, what it is, where the negotiations are today, right now?
I think that we are where we are at today. We are at day 8, hour 90 of
Yeah,
negotiations at this
yeah,
point.
right.
Of the ongoing, obviously the negotiations have been going on for a while, but the two
Yeah,
sides have
18
been in
months.
New York hammering away and really starting to make some progress and really starting to sit at the table. I think that um, there was a lot of posturing. There were a lot of both
Yes.
sides were making a lot of different plays, and I think that at this point, I think everybody is out of plays and they're actually negotiating. And I think the thing that got both sides at the table now is I think the league finally realized that every old maneuver that you were going to use to try to suppress
Hasn't worked.
pay has not worked. That goes
Yes,
for women's
right.
sports. That
Hmm.
goes for negotiations in general. That goes for union busting in general, right? Like they've tried a lot of different tactics. They've tried to
Yep.
delay the negotiations. They've gone
Mhm.
2 6 week periods without without giving counter proposals. They've
Yes.
answered the players' counter proposals by saying, "Well, we're not going to respond to this because this is too similar," and then they'll go back and give them a proposal that is actually almost the exact same
Hmm.
to the previous counter proposal that they gave.
Yep.
Um, that tactic is that's it's very common tactic, right? The other one is trying to create disharmony. I think that they took out the middle class, the housing in order to try to ruffle the feathers of the middle class and see if they could cause some disharmony. I think the players union then responded by being very gung-ho about making sure that housing was included and keeping everybody united. And then like the last sort of move that they had was the media and trying to create the perception of disharmony amongst the executive committee.
Yep. A
So
narrative.
we
Yeah.
have this letter leak. 2 weeks now. It's been 2 weeks now since this letter leaked out of a meeting from the players union where Kelsey Plum and Brianna Stewart expressed concern with how negotiations were being handled. Now they seem to be part of a group of players that seems to say, okay, like let's negotiate for net revenue as opposed to gross revenue. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Um,
Bless
thank you, thank you. Um, and like we're closer than we are far, and like let's get this thing done. And then it was presented as though that was sort of a majority viewpoint of the WNBPA Players Union. Come to find out, 84% of players don't want to take this deal.
you.
So
Yeah.
now that's looking a little bit funny in the light. And I don't want to put this on Stewie and KP individually. I think it is valid to have opposing opinions. I think it's really healthy to have opposing opinions.
Yep.
My question just immediately becomes who got them to put that in a letter? And
Yes.
then how did that letter
How to get
get
leaked?
to
Yes.
ESPN? How did it get to ESPN in a report that included Alexa Philippou and Don Van Natta, who from my knowledge, Don Van Natta is an incredible reporter. Like I follow his work. I
Yes.
really admire him. I think reporters are supposed to report what they've been given. I don't think that they did anything wrong here. I think Alexa is one of the best WNBA reporters. She has her ear to the ground. She's been in New York 8 days straight. She's a fantastic reporter. So this isn't about them. It's about who's giving them information, right? Yeah. What's Don Van Natta doing there, right? Like,
right.
Like who's leaking to him? It has to be somebody who's not like a little bit on a higher level and a different, whether it's agency, whether it's within the league. Like now that we're at this place, these higher, like the levers of power start to move together, and they try to find a way to make it like weaken the people that they want to have capitulate.
Yeah.
So I think all of that was coordinated, and I think it left a glancing blow, but I think ultimately, like, what we realize is that the majority of the union, while there are definitely members that would like to take the deal that's on the table right now, the majority of the union wants to keep fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. They like I think Fee said it. She said we're 10 toes down. Like we're here to negotiate. We want a fair deal. And I agree with all the points you said about. I think the league was trying to use every tactic in the book that they could use and see if the players would cave in. And they come to find out, oh, this is going to be a fight, which they shouldn't be infighting anyway. It should just be something that you try to come together. It's a negotiation. You come together and try to make the most fair and best deal for both parties as well. My thing is only because now that it was crunch time and it's beyond now, but it's crunch time and now we can meet at the table. I know they've met a couple of times before this, but as you said, it was a stalling tactic. They were trying to use a stalling tactic, but I mean the players union is very intelligent, very smart, and they're like, hey, we know what we want, we know what we're asking for. We're not just taking a deal that we feel like is unfair. So I'm glad that they're sticking by and not really caving in, because that's what happens usually in some of these leagues. They don't get the best deal. And then next thing you know, they're back at the negotiating table years later and looking for a new deal. So I think the WNBA, at least the players, are trying to figure out, okay, we know what we want. Now the league just they got to meet in the middle. So we'll see if I know they say it's getting close, but do you feel like it's getting close? I know they're still falling apart on a lot of different things, but what do you?
I think it's really hard to say. I think that for all the kind of conversation there has been in the last little while, with media and stuff, as of now, like it's neither ships are very leaky right now. They're in a room. They're trying to get it done. I did read, I think it was a weekend report from Alexa Philippou that gross versus net revenue is still a conversation that's being had. If that's still a conversation that's being had, that to me signals that we're still a little bit farther away. And we've now there was a March 10th deadline that was arbitrary. Then, Kathy Engelbert says that this has to get done by Monday. Well, it's now Tuesday, right? So we're probably looking at a delayed season at this point. Maybe we're looking at the season starting a week ahead, and potentially, I think the best solution, if you don't want to miss any games, is just to allow the WNBA season to bleed into the start of the regular season in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think that that should just be what they do going forward. I know that one of the things that's been talked about is starting the season earlier. That doesn't make any sense to me. You do not want to dovetail with March Madness and all of that. It's already such a quick turnaround, and I think the tournament is so incredible for the WNBA's marketing. You want to work together with NCAA.
Yeah,
I
good
think
point.
we're starting to see them do that. I don't think that they've done that well enough in the past, anyways. But now, you saw last preseason, you had Caitlin go back to Iowa, you had Sabrina go back to Oregon, you had Enrique go back to Notre Dame. Like I think things like that are really huge. So you want to synergize with them as much as possible and not worry so much about bleeding into NBA games. I think it'd be great to have a situation where you have NBA opening night doubleheader on NBC, and the next day have the WNBA finals. I think that's really exciting. I think that's good
Yeah,
for both leagues. I think going forward, I think that NBA All Star Saturday is something that the league is trying to fix. Well, how do you fix it? Sabrina Ionescu, Caitlin Clark in a 3-point context. You get the Rising Stars Challenge back again. You throw Asia Wilson and Bam Adebayo on a team against two other NBA, like another duo that's an NBA
mhm.
WNBA duo. Like that stuff would be so fun. Like I think All Star
Yes,
Saturday used to be fun in part because like you had stuff like that going on, and it's just these leagues, they're owned by the same entity, and I think that it's been a frustrating relationship for a long time. I think for a long time NBA owners were like, why are we subsidizing this? And I think that's a fair thing. Like up until probably about like I don't know exactly when like the financial tides change. Now I think you have WNBA people who are frustrated that the owners will get of NBA teams that aren't invested in the WNBA will get the revenue windfall, right? Like so it has been a contentious partnership that the WNBA needed for its survival for a while, but now we are at this place where like maybe let's forget all of those things and realize how great of an opportunity it is for everybody
mhm.
involved, right? Like the NBA, there's like who's the next great American star? Who's the next great American star? Well, Caitlin Clark is more popular than like Anthony Edwards. Like she just
Yes,
is. I know people will disagree with that. You can check the Google Trends. You can check just about any metric of popularity. She's more popular than a lot of the young NBA stars, and that's like the NBA seems to be having an existential crisis over things like that. And it's like, well, I don't know. Like you got some people here on
yeah,
this side that like are garnering an incredible amount of attention, right? Like I do think like that Caitlyn is on a different level, but you have Paige Beckers who is incredibly popular. You have Angel Reese who's incredibly
Reese is very
popular. You
popular.
have
Yeah.
yeah, like you have a lot of players who have a lot of name recognition that you could bring into the fold. Like they are your employees, so why not pay them what they're worth, get rid of all this resentment so you never have a situation again where like they're not at your flagship events. Like it
Yeah,
just kind of at this point, like I get that it's hard for people to let things go from the past, but at this point it's just like it would just be good for everybody.
yeah, it would be good for everybody. It would. You're
Mm-hmm.
right, and like you said, it's there. Like everything is
Mm-hmm.
is set up for this league to continue the success heading into this 30th season. And the thing is too, I said this on a couple podcasts. I've always felt with the way the negotiations were going and everything too. I always felt that they would probably start late, just because of that crunch time and everything too, and all the things they have to do, and when they even get the deal done. There's a lot of things that you got two expansion teams. You gotta have that. You gotta have the
Mm-hmm.
expansion draft. You gotta have the draft after March Madness. The WNBA draft. You got March Madness. You got WNBA draft. You got free agency. Where is it 95% of
Mm-hmm.
the league is a free agent
Yeah.
or even higher than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then you got the league. So I said probably I always was saying June 1st is probably going to be the target date for me at least that they start,
Mm-hmm.
but that
Yeah, I
starts
think that's
late
fair.
you
Yeah.
know. But just that's because of you said that March 10th date that
Mm-hmm.
they talked about, and there's no deal. That was a week of today from today. Um, and we're still negotiating. It probably if they get a deal, they'll probably be in the week, maybe early into next week. We're just not sure. But yeah, we're on day 8, day 9, whatever it is now. I'm negotiating. It just makes you wonder, like, why weren't you guys at the table before?
Mm-hmm.
But you laid it out. That's the
Mm-hmm.
reason. The reason why the league was trying to hold for 6 weeks on end, and
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't worked. Now they're in panic mode in a way,
Right.
and they need
Yeah.
need to get something done.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
you nailed it.
I mean, that's what it is. But
Mhm.
interesting. I want to transition into USA basketball. And
Mhm.
I heard, I saw your team that you got what you think
Yeah, my yeah, yeah,
2028.
my
Yes,
2028 Olympic team.
Olympic
Yeah.
team. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about that. And shout out to Nikias Duncan, who does
Yeah.
great, incredible work himself as well. And I was looking at your team, and I like both. I do like both teams. I think for me, my just in my take of just why looking at it, there's a couple players might be missing, like KP is missing. I think on both you guys is
Uh-huh.
yes, yep, yep, Kelsey Plum and others. But you have, like I said, you have Sarah Strong. You
Yeah.
have also Hannah Hidalgo, so you went right into okay. They're gonna and Juju Watkins, which I think if Juju comes back healthy for sure. Uh, any different, like anybody that you think should have could have been, or did you make any changes on your team or anything like
Yeah,
that?
so we didn't have I think we didn't have neither of us had Sabrina Ionescu on the
Yeah,
team.
Sabrina
Neither
too.
of
Yeah.
us had Kelsey Plum on the team.
Yep.
And my most controversial pick was probably not having Angel on the team.
Yep.
And
Okay. Yep.
I have got like I mean it's a you know, I think when you don't pick those two players, you kind of make yourself vulnerable to the Stan Wars and things like that, and that's
Your
something
opinion. Your
I can
take. Your
accept.
opinion.
I can accept that. That just comes with
Yeah.
covering basketball. That is it is what it is. I was never a big Kobe fan when and rest in peace and everything. But so I'm familiar with with all of that. So it's fine. Like that's part of it. And people are very passionate about the game, and I think that's
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah. I love it.
that's what you want, right? Like
Mhm.
you want people like for the growth of this game to be so mad that you didn't pick their favorite player to be on
Right.
the Olympic
Right.
roster, right? My reasoning for that was a couple different things. I think that I think Angel's been fantastic in Team USA play. I just want to make it. I think Angel Reese is a fantastic player. I think that like I love seeing what she's done for the Chicago Sky, especially her growth last year, like being able to kind of be that transition ball handler. She definitely has, innate passing ability, basketball IQ, of course, the best rebounder in the WNBA,
Yeah.
fantastic positional and multi-positional defender. That's great for the modern game. So like I love Angel Reese's game. I think I just love it more in a Chicago Sky context or an
In the
unrivaled
Olympics.
context where she gets to have the ball in her hands on offense. That is what really allows her to thrive, right? Like you saw, that was a big part of her growth this past season. And I think that in a Team USA setting, you it's more about fitting into a team context. That's part of the reason that Kalia Copper is a player that I love, but she didn't make my team because I think that when you have wings like Jackie Young, who
Yeah.
like and Kaz is a great off-ball offensive player. And she's somebody I could definitely, like it's just like we made the title like steak too juicy, lobster too buttery. Because it's like, what do you do? Like you have like
Yes.
man, like these
Yeah.
are all fantastic
Good
basketball players.
players.
Somebody's
Yes.
gonna
Absolutely.
have to be
Yeah.
left off. So with Angel, the way I was thinking about it is you're gonna be more of a play finisher in her position, right? And
Mhm.
that's where you get to, as much as she's improved, some of the weaknesses in her game. Like when you compare her layup finishing, which has certainly improved. I think she was above 50% for like the second half of the season. That's still not at the level of Asia Wilson, Aaliyah Boston,
Yep.
Nafisa Collier, who are going to be playing ahead of her in those situations. And they also provide a little bit more offensive spacing off the ball. Like I think about what happened with the Phoenix Mercury. Whenever Alyssa Thomas didn't have the ball in her hands in the
Mm.
finals, right? Like
Yep.
then it becomes a lot easier to game plan. It becomes a lot easier to say, okay, we'll double off of this player, and then you can get your offense kind of junked up, right? So that was my thought on it. It's definitely something I can like be walked back on. I think one of the points that was made to me is that there's maybe not enough rebounding on this team. On my team, I think that there was enough positional rebounding because like Alicia Gray's a fantastic positional rebounder.
Yeah.
I know she'd probably more likely play 3-on-3, but this is my fantasy team, so I'm
Right.
gonna go
Right.
with whoever I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hannah Hidalgo, who's on my team, is a fantastic positional rebounder. Caitlin Clark's a fantastic positional rebounder. Ryan Howard, who I think unlocks this team being able to play small, is a
Yes.
fantastic positional rebounder. So yeah, I mean, like you could definitely talk me into Angel for sure. Like I think that there's things that she does that are on a very high level that like maybe you save Hannah for like next year or something like that, right? Like I could definitely be convinced into that. You're not going to talk me into Sabrina or Kelsey. honestly. Like I know that Sabrina has a lot of fans, and Sabrina's a fantastic player and all of that. But it just gets into what I think are what you when you think about Team USA and role definition and who's going to be elite at at things and be actually asked to do them. Well, Caitlin Clark's the starting point guard for this team. I think she proved it in Team USA. I think that she's just like the perfect sort of like player to allow the team to play with pace, space them out, and then also like give them the ball where they want it. Sabrina to me has always been a little bit more of a combo guard, and
Yeah.
I don't know that those players necessarily. It becomes like the moments where you won't need Caitlin Clark are the ones where like we saw it against Puerto Rico, where they go zone and Paige Beckers can bust that zone with her mid range, with her cutting, and her just ability as like a half court supercomputer. She provides a very different look from Caitlin. Then you could potentially have Chelsea Gray in there just as like the point guard who has the most experience, who can kind of really play it in both of those contexts and stuff. With Sabrina, it just started to feel redundant to me. I was like, okay, you're a great playmaker, but I don't want the ball in your hands more than I want it in those two players' hands or those three players' hands if you include Chelsea. You're, I mean, you're known for your great shooter. You've had one season shooting above 40% in the WNBA. If I have Alicia Gray on this roster, if I have Ryan Howard on this roster, is like pure shooters. Like that's like it's just like where does she fit? It's more about where does she fit, because I think she is so good at she's great. She's great at so many things. She's like probably like 85th, 90th percentile at all the things that we've talked about. But when you have players in the team that are then 95th percentile at all those things, it's just like, where do you fit in? You know, like I just value a lot. I value skill versatility on a roster like this so that you can play against a lot of different styles.
Right. No, and I love this. I love having this conversation, just like we were just talking about breaking down players and things like that. And I saw that you guys had your roster up, and I said, okay, I kind of, and I see.
Yeah, and I think this is thing in women's sports where you're just like, I'm not like, you're not supposed to talk about like it makes you like one of the people, especially with Angel, right? Like I think I just try to analyze her game fairly, because I think that there are so many bad faith actors that want to denigrate what she's capable of doing, and I don't want to do that. I just think that in this specific context, like her weaknesses are a little bit more glaring, and I think it's okay to point that out. It's okay to point out that Sabrina has had some like really mid 3-point shooting years. Like I think like that needs to be integrated into part of our game without being part of some sort of like larger culture war as well. You know, like we just need to be able to talk about this stuff in a normal way.
And you're right, and that's the thing. Like, if you put even any opinion out, or as we talk about take, I mean, it's your opinion. This is the team that you said. This is who I think it should be on the team. And like I said, I would just like you said, I think Ryan Howard definitely has earned her spot, especially this stretch of games. That she's been playing lately on the USA teams. Like, okay, she shows versatility defensively. It could be a monster, and it's shooting lights out. So yes, though, that's a spot that's just like she's got to be on that team. I agree with you with Jackie Young for sure. The only thing I said with Angel, if you needed another big, besides then because I agree with Leah Boston. And of course, Asia Wilson. I guess Stewie still could play big as well. But you said Stronger's coming up. So if Angel's probably the next best big, then okay. So either way, like you said, defeats Collier, she's on the team for sure.
Yeah, I think I could definitely get I could work with Angel on the team for sure. I put Hannah in there because I think she just gives a different look. Like it was Puerto Rico, they had Trinity San Antonio who could just kind of. Like she was blowing past every defender. It's like, okay, well then maybe you throw in somebody who can like kind of go toe to toe with her. Like it's just a different look. But I think Angel is also like she can definitely guard that 1 to 5 and do a lot of things as well.
Yeah, so she'll be the third big.
Definitely go with her being on the team.
Third big behind Asia. And I think Celia Boston definitely should be on it too. So yeah, I just like it. I just like that you said had these conversations.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun to talk about. It was like one of the most fun podcasts. Like talking through it all with Nikias was awesome. Like we had a blast, and we probably could have talked for like longer.
I know. I could talk to you about this for the longest time with it and everything. But I think it's a people are gonna always try to they nip. It's just like when you do a top 5 players.
Yeah.
Of all time, top 5 players of today.
Oh, for sure.
Top 10. It's like it's my opinion. It's
That's
like, it's
yeah, and
like
that's what comes with covering sports. So you have to
yeah.
learn how to just like take it as well.
Mhm.
Like if it's if it's bad, just log off. Like it's not. People are fans. Like that's what you're wading into people's
Yeah, the
sensitivity
fandom. Yep.
around their fandom. Like I think it's very natural that you're going to get that kind of
Yeah,
response.
for sure, for
Mhm.
sure. All right, just got two more before I let you go. This is so much fun. I got to have you on again during the
Yeah,
season,
for sure,
during the
absolutely.
season. I
Yeah, it would be
appreciate this.
great.
March Madness, as we said, women's college basketball
Hmm.
starts this week, and I've got the brackets and everything. But my one question I wanted to ask you about that: can anyone beat UConn? UConn look like they've been the most dominant team over the
Yeah.
last year and a half, 2 years almost,
Hmm.
defending champions and everything. But in your opinion, uh, with
Hmm.
how you see the brackets come out, can anyone beat UConn?
I would say probably not. However, I'm sort of, if I wanted to talk myself into somebody, I could talk myself into UCLA.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
Despite what UConn did to them last year, I think that I think the biggest thing with UConn is just seeing if they were a mentally tougher team this
yeah,
year than they were last. And I think every year they have become more mentally tough. So it's definitely within the cards for them. They've only lost one game. They have 18 quad one wins. I think about the game that they've lost, and it was kind of diagnosed as Lauren Betts, just didn't put up a lot of stats, but she was doubled all game. And actually, UCLA didn't hit threes. The thing
mm,
is, that's like a kind of an anomaly event for them, for both of those things not to be working. I think that they just have a lot of depth on their bench, but also just like the best starting five in the NCAA this season. They're going to send like 4 to 5 players to the WNBA potentially. So they, to me, are the team that has the best combination of offense, defense, 3-point shooting, defensive variability, and a couple players that I think are just going to be really like. I think Lauren Betts is going to be really motivated. I think Kiki Rice has been motivated. I think Gabby
yes,
Hawkins has been motivated. All of those players have come back a lot better, and I think I also just want to give like a brief shout out to Corey Close as well, who I think that she fits like the definition of what you want in a coach, in that I think that she lifts her players up. She
mm,
allows them to be better. She creates a safe space for them to heal from their losses. Like I think what her and Lauren Betts have been able to do, helping Lauren Betts build herself back up after a season in Stanford that really chipped away at her mentally. I think that she's just one of the best sort of shapers of young women, and creating a space for them to feel like they can fail and then get back up again. So I know that there's stuff with Corey, and like her might not have like the best adjustments in the game, and I think those are the things that we all see, but I think there's so
yeah,
much more to coaching. So and all of that said, by the way, I still think UConn's going to win, but I could definitely see UCLA giving them a bit of a run for their money this year.
I
And
think
I mean, I think Texas has balance that they never had before with their 3-point shooting combined with their defense. And Brianna Preston has given them like a bit of a different look at point guard as well. Aaliyah Crump is a huge X factor for them, 5-star freshman, who just kind of started to be able to play in the same way that Sienna Betts is a huge X factor for UCLA as well.
yeah,
So I think both those teams are really, really stacked. And I don't, and UCLA also has, I mean, UConn also has to get through Vanderbilt
yeah,
in order to even
yeah,
make it to the Final Four. And I think that they will, but like that's probably the hardest game that they'll have played up in like their hardest game really was probably against Michigan, and that's a Michigan team that Vanderbilt beat. So who knows, right? This is
yeah.
Shea Ralph versus Gino
Yeah,
UConn head
yeah,
coaching matchup
yeah.
should be interesting. Yeah.
That should be interesting. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
always a good dynamic of how, so who can, UConn's been the talk of the year, but there's always, you said, I agree with you with UCLA. They have everything what it takes to win the whole thing. You said one loss, and they're playing well, and it's all depends. If you get hot at the right time and everything
Hmm.
too. So anything happen. But I agree with you. I think UConn still wins because just because they such a good, they just they got the coaching, they got the players, they're
Hmm.
just a good all around team defensively. They
Yeah,
can
I
block.
mean they're
Yeah,
best player in college basketball
best
and
player
Sarah
in college basketball.
Strong.
Yes, there's
They have the
some.
best coach. They
Yep.
have, or like what, like Don Staley or Gino, really, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They have the best record. They have AZ Fudd, who might be the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah, who's
Best
been
pure
very
shooter in
efficient.
the. But you
Mhm.
know what? Like, so it's like AZ is the best pure shooter. Gianna Neepkins is probably the second best pure
Second
shooter, and
best.
she's on
Yeah,
UCLA. So it's like,
yeah,
like they do have, yeah, they've
they can
definitely
match
got the
up.
pieces to go toe to toe. Yeah.
They can definitely match up. So
Hmm.
looking forward to that. As always, March Madness for sure.
So
All right,
fun.
last one before I let you go. Since it is Women's History Month, and I'm so glad I got to feature you on this series. I've had
Hmm.
one for quite a few years now. So Women's History Month, what does that mean to you on a personal and professional level?
I think Women's History Month. I think the first thing I think about on a personal level these days, especially, is my mom. Um, so my mom's mom passed away this past year,
Sorry.
and she was a thank you, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
She lived with us, and I don't live in Edmonton anymore, but she lived in my home in Edmonton, so we were really really close. And my mom is also incredibly close with her as well. And I think that with my mom, I think that I've just seen her go through so many different things.
yeah,
And without getting into too much of her life or anything like that, I think that um, like just so I went back to India for the first time in like 17 years, and I went to my mom's village, and I think that there were a lot of things in her life that put her in the position of having to provide for people, and it was never something that people thought that she'd be capable. It's not a role that like she was put into or something that she was groomed for or anything. I think like the thing in India is a lot of people, they want sons because the idea is that sons go out and work, like, or sons work the farm, like in Punjab. Like, I come from a farming family, so I get there's a practical value in that. But she actually became put in the position of becoming like the provider for our family. Like, her brother passed away, and she now goes back to her village, and it's like I just see the reverence and respect that people have for her there because of everything that she did. And it's just an incredible thing. It was not something that was that, like, I think even her mom would have, like, her mom probably was thinking that her sons would be the ones to do it. And I think my mom came over from India, and she worked so hard, and she always sent money back, and she really helped like stabilize things for her family back home. And you see that now, and like my cousins and like my uncle and things like that. And they've worked really hard in their own right too, as well. I don't want to make it sound like she was just like doing everything or anything like that. But the reality is, like, getting out of, like, adverse situations and poverty and things like that, like, you need help, right? And I think that she was really able to like be that rock. And now she's a little bit older, and like she's kind of like has more time to herself to be able to like think and reflect. And I see like the young girl in her come out more,
mhm,
who like loves art and you know painting and things like that. Not I don't like it. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just I think about her a lot. And then I think professionally, I don't know. I think I just feel really like driven by covering the CBA in the best way that I possibly can right now, because of the implications that it has for just like women's basketball long term. And I think that it's also like, this has made me realize one thing I want to do more of as I cover the WNBA. I've always just covered sports like
yeah,
players and what they're up to and stuff like that. But I think that there's a real opportunity to kind of like use my position as a reporter to try to push the league to invest in the right ways and things like that. That I think a lot of WNBA reporters are really invested in that, and I think that's a really worthwhile practice. And I think that just in general, like, being in this space has taught me a lot, just
I
from
love.
like watching other reporters in this space and their level of investment. Watching not even just reporters, like everybody around this space is there's like sort of a larger meaning behind all of it
Yeah,
that I find myself increasingly like sort of understanding.
I I don't have anything to say after that. And that was
Mhm.
very well said, and everything too. But I appreciate and I appreciate you for doing this. I really do. I've enjoyed this conversation, which
Me
I knew
too.
I would,
Mhm.
just for the work that you do. And so I always say many blessings to you moving forward,
Thank you
pushing,
so
continue to
much.
keep pushing the boundaries,
You as
um,
well.
and everything. Thank you. Appreciate that. And continued success as well for what you got going on and everything too. So again, thank you. And let everyone know where they could actually follow you
Yeah,
on
for sure.
social and want to reach
Mhm.
out or anything like that, follow your work and subscribe, all
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky or Instagram at Seerat Sohi. I'm also the host of the Rigor WNBA show, which you can find on Spotify or whatever podcast platform you prefer. And we're going to be doing a lot of March Madness coverage. We're kind of constantly have an eye on the CBA, but yeah, we did that Team USA podcast
that.
on Friday, and then we're going to be doing a lot of bracket stuff, just kind of helping people kind of come up with their ideal brackets, whether it's they want to go chalk or whether they want to go vibes, whether they want to go with like the risky picks and like the upsets and things like that. We're kind of just gonna be putting out like a your guide to March Madness, and then from there we'll just cover the whole thing. We'll talk about the pomp and circumstance and the
Yes.
campiness of it all, and we'll also talk about the game, and we'll talk about the larger sort of implications for the women's sports world at large. I try to do a little bit of everything. So yeah, that's kind of what we do.
All right, well, Sierra, thank you again. I can't thank you enough. And like I said, I would hope we can do this again whenever the season starts.
Me too. Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
be very optimistic that it's
right.
going to start on time,
I
or at
hope
least
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I'm been a huge fan of the W and women's
Mhm.
basketball, women's sports in general, just in general for sure. But I really appreciate that. And again, I thank you and thanks for your
Thank
time. And
you.
yeah, so we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks,
All right. Yeah.
Courtney.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.